Hello friends, and welcome to the Unholy Script. The world first learned her name from a headline that sounded impossible. In a quiet Andean village in 1939, a 5-year-old girl was taken to a provincial doctor because her stomach had begun to swell. What her parents feared was an illness would soon reveal a truth that medicine could barely comprehend. Her name was Lina Medina. Within weeks, she would stand at the center of one of the strangest and most disturbing medical cases ever recorded. A child whose own body had turned into the cradle of another life. What began as confusion inside a mountain home became a chain of examinations, hospital corridors, and photographs that history would never forget. Science called it a medical anomaly. The law called it evidence of a crime. And for the rest of her life, Lina called it nothing at all. When Lina arrived at the provincial medical center, she was wrapped in layers of woven cloth against the chill of the coastal wind. To the nurses on duty that morning, she looked far too small to be the source of such mystery. Her father, a silversmith from the hills of Tecrapo, spoke softly when he explained that her belly had grown larger each week, though she never complained of pain. The first physician noted her calmness. No fever, no tenderness, no fear, only the kind of stillness that made adults uneasy. He suspected a tumor, perhaps a cyst, and recorded her weight and pulse with routine precision. But when he placed his hand on her abdomen, something subtle shifted beneath the skin, rhythmic and deliberate, not the random flutter of illness. His pen hesitated before it met the page. Within days, the girl was referred to a hospital in Lima under the supervision of Dr. Gerardo Lozada, a pediatric specialist known for his meticulous methods. The corridors of that hospital echoed with a quiet disbelief as the child was lifted onto the examination table. Her eyes followed every movement in the room. Lozada listened once, then again, pressing the stethoscope just below her ribs. Beneath the hush of her breathing came another heartbeat, steady, separate, undeniable. The staff exchanged glances but said nothing aloud. Medical language offered no words for what they had just heard. Radiographs were ordered. The images that emerged from the darkroom erased all doubt. The curved outline of a spine, the small oval of a skull, the unmistakable silhouette of a fetus resting inside the body of a 5-year-old girl. The doctor stared at the glowing plates, each of them suspended between science and disbelief. The case was real. What they were seeing should have been impossible. And yet the evidence flickered in silver and light before them. Dr. Lozada documented his findings with the restraint of a man aware that every sentence might become history. The report listed precocious puberty as the only rational explanation. But reason offered no comfort. Behind the sterile language lay a truth too heavy for any chart. A child, barely old enough to read, was carrying a child of her own. As night settled over the hospital, Lozada reviewed the data once more, hoping the next reading would reveal a mistake. None came. He locked the file in his drawer, extinguished the lamp, and sat for a long while in silence. Somewhere in the ward, the sound of 2 heartbeats continued, one strong, one impossibly small, echoing through the tiled corridors, like the ticking of a clock that no one knew how to stop. Dawn broke pale over Lima on May 14, 1939. Inside the Lozada clinic, the air smelled of antiseptic and cold metal. Nurses moved quietly, arranging instruments on trays that glimmered under the harsh light. Every sound, the clatter of forceps, the low hiss of sterilizers, felt amplified by the weight of what was about to happen. In the center of the operating room stood a narrow table draped in linen. Upon it lay Lina Medina, 5 years and 7 months old, her frame barely visible beneath the thin blanket. The anesthesia mask covered most of her face. Her pulse was steady, her breathing shallow, her body impossibly small against the geometry of the surgical lamps. Dr. Gerardo Lozada stood on one side, his assistant Dr. Busalu on the other. The procedure was listed clinically as a therapeutic cesarean, but everyone present knew that what they were about to perform had no precedent in medicine. At 8:37 a.m., the first incision was made. The silence that followed was total. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. Beneath each layer of tissue, the anatomy defied reason. The uterus, fully developed and vascular like that of an adult, lay hidden within a body not yet halfway through childhood. When Lozada opened it, a brief shimmer of light reflected off the fluid, and then a cry. A sound so ordinary and yet so impossible that everyone in the room froze. A newborn boy, healthy and full term, emerged into a silence thick with disbelief. He weighed 2.7 kilograms, his cry sharp and certain, his small chest rising with life. The nurses wrapped him in gauze and recorded the name chosen by the attending physician, Gerardo, after the man who had delivered him. Lozada worked in silence, suturing the incision layer by layer. The rhythm of his hands was mechanical, as though precision could shield him from the meaning of what he had just witnessed. When the final stitch was tied, he stepped back. On the table before him lay the youngest confirmed mother in medical history, a title no one had words for, and no one wanted to speak aloud. At 9:12 a.m., the operation was declared successful. The nurses recorded every detail, but none dared write what they felt. When the anesthetic mask was removed, Lina stirred faintly. Her eyes fluttered open, and in a voice small enough to disappear into the hum of the machines, she asked, "Can I go home now?" It was the only sentence she spoke that day. It would echo in the minds of everyone who heard it long after the surgical lights dimmed. Outside the ward, the city carried on as usual, vendors shouting, trams rattling past unaware that inside a quiet hospital room, history had just rewritten the limits of human. Asterisk word of the operation spread anyone at the Zada clinic it. Within days, published